Hello, welcome to another rapid fire virtual event on LinkedIn Live. I'm Moreno, your host, also known as the Customer Acquisition Architect. Your co-host is Deborah Reynolds, also known as the Now to Wow Diva. Deborah is the founder and president of About Face Image Consulting. Debbie, again, it is so good to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us.
I am very happy to be back again. It's always great to do a segment with you. Thank you.
Debbie, our topic of interest today is the online virtual stage versus the offline concrete stage. And the four areas we will cover are how or why on-stage presentations benefit business, how the virtual stage is similar to the concrete stage, advantages of the virtual stage over the concrete stage. And the last point that we'll cover is how to get started on the virtual stage. A reminder for our viewers, use the chat to ask your questions and comments. Please note that we can only acknowledge them after the event this morning. Let's start with the first point, Debbie.
Perfect.
How on-stage presentations benefit business. Debbie, I feel that the best way to persuade anybody is one-on-one. However, the disadvantage with that is that we're only persuading one person at a time. However, when we're on stage, one to many, we are persuading many people at the same time. Debbie, you've had many years' experience presenting to live audiences on stage. Can you share some of your experiences and ideas about that?
I'd love to. It was actually a dream of mine when I went to a conference and I saw a speaker on stage in front of a large audience. I actually sat in that seat as I was sort of riveted listening and thinking, I want to do that one day. And I really sort of had to search inside, what is the reason why I actually wanted to do that? People want to do the on-stage presence, the visibility component for a variety of reasons. Some people want to do it for attention. Other people believe that they have this inner mission or this drive internally to want to impact the world. They want to really make a difference. They want to add great value to people. So speaking has a variety of purposes. When you're live in an audience, obviously it could be disseminating information. It could be influencing. It could be entertaining. It could be sharing information or knowledge so they go away with that knowledge and they have an ability to implement and put material to use in their life to make their life or their business or their career better. And so I think you first of all have to get clear on the reasons why you want to be able to do it. But we're human beings that if we have the mindset that we want to add value, then internally you have to develop yourself. And in the process of developing yourself, I think it's natural for a lot of people to go, here's what I experienced, here's what I learned, and I want to share it with you. So it's not only sharing knowledge and experience, it's sharing life experience, stories, your difficulties, your challenges, your traumas, how you actually moved through those to get around to the other side, so that you can actually navigate life a lot easier and you can navigate your career or your business in a better way or an easier way. So the clarity around that needs to be solidified. Then you have to really understand what it's like to be in front of an audience, presenting and sharing information. And you have to have this ability to connect with a variety of people, because people learn in a variety of different ways. They learn, some are more visual, others are, and the majority of the population is more visual, more auditory. People need to be doing things. You need to get them, sort of take control of the room and say who agrees with that and get their hand raised. You've got to involve them in the process. And so I loved the experience of getting comfortable in front of a room, but guiding the experience and having a real intention about what they would walk away with after a keynote or after a full day of training. So that becomes important.
So I can see that it gives you an opportunity to connect with people, to share experiences, and to see how people react. I'm curious to know, how does it boost your business, the size of your audience? And thinking that your smallest audience is one person and your maximum audience, well, there's no limit to that. I would imagine that the bigger your audience, the more influential you will be, and the greater your return on that investment presenting on stage.
Yeah, hopefully that's the result that we want, because sometimes you can present badly or you don't connect with the audience. So the research around that becomes important, and being really prepared is a really important element. But what I think is really important as a speaker is the vulnerability that you're presenting to the audience. You're being vulnerable. You're sharing information about yourself or experiences that present you as an imperfect human being, which means that you don't want to practice so much that the presentation is perfect. You want to have this ease of conversation where other people can naturally relate to you, understand what it is that you're, first of all, talking about and presenting. But they have to make that connection and realize, oh, I'm just like Debbie. I've had those experiences too. And so you have to be able to relate to other people. And so you got to be able to relate to a wide variety of personalities, whether it's on stage live or whether it is on a virtual stage. You got to be able to connect with a wide variety of audience. I mean, you got to know your material, but the idea is you can make mistakes, and you got to be able to laugh at yourself in the process. But you do have to be true to yourself. You have to be vulnerable to make that real connection with the audience.
I can hear that it's important to be yourself, so that people can see that you're human and can relate to you, and that way they can learn to, once they know you, to like and trust you when they can relate to you. Now, that is off stage, and we all understand that because that is tangible, and many of us have had that opportunity to speak to an audience, even if it's a small audience. Then one wonders, what is the correlation to presenting online versus presenting on a concrete stage? I believe that there are many similarities. When it's about seeing a person and listening to a person live, there is a lot of information in addition to verbal information that we are collecting, that we are interpreting. And that way we're better able to understand the presenter. Other people are better able to see who we are, as opposed to, well, the worst case scenario would be reading about someone or what somebody has written. And then seeing a person on video is a great improvement. However, we all know that it's not live. Whereas if we see somebody live, as we all have done on television, for example, that way we get to know people much better. We can start relating to them, start liking them. And when we see and hear them often enough, we start trusting them. What is your experience with online presentations, Deborah?
I almost like them better. And I'll tell you the number of reasons why I like them better. First of all, in the live speaking world, when people get on a plane and they're traveling, because I did a lot of that for many years, I was gone about 2 weeks out of every month. It was really exhausting because you're on an airplane, you're going to different cities, there's different time zones, you're sleeping in a different bed every night, different pillows, different food, different water. it was exhausting, physically exhausting. It was great to be able to connect with people live and shake hands and interact with people. I love that part of it. The other part of it is you really got to manage your health. There needs to be a lot of attention on your health and your well-being to ensure you get the right sleep, to ensure that you're looking after your health if you're doing a lot of traveling and you're going to other countries, that sort of thing. So the drawbacks of exhaustion or being tired or having to navigate weather conditions or borders and, passports and tickets and interruptions in travel, those things can be difficult and be super challenging. They can add to the stress of the situation. We do have those things in a virtual environment. I mean, we're in the middle of winter right now. So we've got 6 inches of snow and expecting another 4 inches. We luckily are in an environment where we're not having any interruptions with electricity, so that, the camera goes down, the computer goes down. But that is also, anytime you're using technology, you can have power outages. That being said, I've been in live speaking events in hotels where the power's gone out. I've actually had to funnel the audience out onto the back parking lot. Luckily, it wasn't in the middle of winter. Mm-hmm. And I actually had to finish the presentation in the back parking lot of the hotel. So you just navigate around those things. Like sometimes your tech goes down. So then you have to be able to be prepared to deliver the content and material without the support of technology. If you're doing everything virtually online, you have to support that, because I have had people come in on Zoom or in on platforms as speakers, and they've lost their notes on their laptop. So I think if they're going to follow notes, you want to print off the copies. What I love about the virtual world, though, Moreno, is you can reach a much larger audience globally. That's the beauty of the virtual world, is there's no limitation really, unless your software creates limitations for you as to how many audience members can be present. I mean, usually with most pieces of software like Zoom or Webinar Jam or a variety of different platforms, you can have as many audience members as you want. But you're dealing with all the tech in the background. And sometimes with the tech, you need the support. So you got to have somebody in the background supporting you to be able to do it.
Yes, that is leading into the next section, which is, the advantages of the virtual stage versus the concrete stage. And in your explanation or description, I can hear the overwhelming logistics involved. For example, for both you and the audience, the organization, the planning, sourcing people, delegating, travel, venues, equipment and materials, catering, following up with people, chasing people, costs. The list is just endless. And
there is a lot of moving pieces. You're right.
Well, that's the greatest advantage of online, that it's, although there's still work involved, it's significantly easier. And the other great advantage, which you touched on, is that now you can reach anyone on the planet with an internet connection. You're no longer restricted to your geographic area. Those Absolutely. Are the main advantages. Yes.
There was one thing I wanted to share too, which is kind of interesting. Actually, yesterday I was on a podcast with Cheryl Plouffe. We were talking about the best way to handle criticism and haters. And so, listen, when you're a speaker and you're speaking, whether it's a live audience or virtual, or you have an opinion or a point of view, you're going to get people criticizing. You're going to get hecklers. You're going to get haters. It's just part of the process. And so what's really interesting and an advantage of being online is that you can control the audience in the sense of, if there's a chat component, you can, with your technology, control chat. You can also bounce people out if they're misbehaving. You can control the mute or unmute of the audience. And, at the time that you want them to engage, you can invite them to engage. So there's huge advantages with that.
Yes, that's the beauty of doing it online, that we have the moderator to take care of all those difficulties when they do happen. Although we don't have a moderator now. However, for most large online events, there will always be a moderator, and a moderator is a must. It definitely simplifies matters a lot, especially the technical side of it.
One other point about the advantage of the stage online and the stage offline, okay, live, in person, is that they're in both different ways. You can have the audience come up on stage and talk. So usually in live events, sometimes they have panels, or sometimes they invite audience members to come up to the microphone, or even come up on stage and ask a question or have a discussion. You can do the exact same thing in an online virtual stage, where you unmute people, you open up their video, you bring them on to ask a question or engage in a discussion, or have a panel of speakers as well. So there are lots of advantages and similarities. They're just handled in a slightly different way.
There's definitely that correlation between offline and online. And we've seen how offline, when we ask for questions from the audience or volunteers to stand up and give their opinion, many people are hesitant because people are generally afraid of public speaking or being seen live in front of people. So we need to encourage them to come forward. Of course, there are always a few bold people in the crowd. And online as well, people have the same kind of fear. People are hesitant to appear live online, thinking about, what are people going to think when they see me? Am I looking my best? People are too self-conscious, too hesitant. It's all in the mind, and it's something that can be overcome through practice. And everyone experiences difficulties. Everyone has an element of fear. Everyone is self-conscious. And these are hurdles that we need to overcome slowly, step by step, one by one. It's a matter of getting started and continuing along the same path towards the goal that we've set out to reach.
Absolutely. It's so true. It kind of brings to mind the other aspects of the live versus the virtual. Is a lot of people go to live events and conferences because they want the networking. They want that human connection and interaction with other people that are like them, learning or absorbing the same types of information. And they want to get to know people. So the networking component is really important. The ability to be sitting at a table, shaking hands, having conversations with people is a really crucial thing. The same experience can happen in an online world with breakout rooms. But listen, if you're very much people oriented and you need that people connection, people will want those live experiences. And so if you're doing it virtually, you want to be able to create the atmosphere in the virtual environment where people have that real connection, where they can actually talk to and interact with people in the room, basically. So I love it when conferences do have breakout rooms and you can connect with other people and introduce yourself to other people and discuss points of view on the topics that were shared. Those are really valuable experiences. So I think that when people are thinking online, which is the way that we're going now, of course, in the world, you need to think about the client experience when they're watching the webinar and how to involve them and feel so they feel important and heard and valued in that process.
We've been talking about offline and online, and clearly we see strong correlations between the two. We are not saying that we need to do one or the other, or that now we should only do online. As business people, we need to do both. And the pandemic has accelerated our need to go online. And that way, we've become more familiar with online. more at ease with online. It's become easier, which is the greatest advantage of attending or presenting online, that it's easy. And because it's easy, it also costs a lot less, because we don't have all those logistical nightmares that we listed offline. The next question that people would be asking is, very well, how does one get started online?
You've got some great content around that, Moreno. Share some really tips about that.
I would like to share a PowerPoint that I've put together, which I'm hoping will address this question.
And really, to get started on the virtual stage is having a great topic, right?
We always need to attract people's attention. Otherwise, we've lost them forever.
True.
Why live stream? Why live video? Why online live? Well, we've addressed that this morning. The reason I've listed these three questions in different words is because they all mean the same thing. People talk about live streaming, live video, online live. Now, there are two types of streaming platforms. The one is professional live streaming platforms, which are an overkill. There are steep learning curves and they cost more. Whereas what most business people can get away with are social video streaming platforms, which includes these that I've listed: YouTube Live, Facebook Live, Instagram, TikTok, Switch, and the one that we favor, which is LinkedIn Live. The reason we favor LinkedIn Live is because it's designed for a professional audience, and the building blocks favor business people. The benefit of live events, as we've referred to already, one has a higher attendance rate than in-person events. And the reason for that is that it's a lot easier to log on, to attend. You mentioned that online we can present from our office or from home, and the same thing, that people who attend our online events can do so from the comfort of their home or office. So because there's so much, yes, Debbie?
Yeah. So the beauty of that too is, I mean, your next point, of course, is that it saves a lot of time. It saves a lot of physical energy too. You can actually do several events in a day if you wanted to be able to do that, which means you're in front of all these different audiences, even in one day, without physically exhausting yourself.
Yes, and one can even go to a far extreme where people put on live events, but are not really live because they've been pre-recorded. However, they are designed in such a way that they appear to be live. That's how easy it has become to do online live events. And then, of course, it saves time, definitely. We don't have to travel. That is the biggest saver of time. And then, of course, it doesn't have all those time-consuming physical events as that one has to do offline. And the global reach. The global reach is just enormous. At the click of a button, we can reach huge numbers of people, as opposed to offline, where often we are restricted to the radius of our business or our event. And of course, the logistics of gathering audiences is much easier. It's all done online.
True. Those are great points.
Yes, the low cost, that is huge because physical events are far more expensive. There are so many physical items to take care of, which are costly.
And it's not only the cost of the speaker, it's whoever is putting on the event actually has to invest a lot less money into the preparation of the event when it's done online. So it's a benefit financially for all parties.
And I imagine, Deborah, that the risks of the cost offline is significantly higher of things going wrong and costing you money.
I mean, definitely. Think of the early parts of the pandemic where a lot of speakers had gigs booked, and then all of a sudden the hotels shut down. And so
Great.
events were canceled. So hotels lost their money, and even event planners actually lost their money too, because sometimes the hotels would not refund money. So there is a huge risk in that.
And getting insights from about the audience is also very important because we like to know who we present to. Doing that online through surveys, for example, is far easier than doing that offline, which I'm sure is a daunting task. And online, we can also get feedback during the event and after the event as well, relatively easy.
True, definitely.
And networking opportunities, you mentioned, people go to offline events for networking. I heard that people attend these events, well, 80% of the people that attend these events attend for educational purposes, and the other 20% for networking reasons. And online, I imagine that there
You get
is networking going on as well.
Absolutely. A lot of people are doing online group events or communities where they're interacting with people and collaborating and doing different things. So huge benefits with that.
Yes, absolutely. The other benefit is content creation because we can create materials, marketing materials from these events. With online, the events get recorded and we can create video content marketing from the events that have been recorded. We get ideas from events because these events are interactive and we get ideas from the audience. Those can spark ideas for new products, new services. It's information that we get from our audience because these events are interactive. It's two ways. We provide the audience with information and ideas, and they in turn provide us with information and ideas too.
Yeah, those are really important points, Moreno.
The greatest is that it's still not overcrowded. However, many people are jumping onto the bandwagon. And my suggestion to business owners is to get online as soon as possible. The right time is now. As with all the other great ideas that have happened in the past, a few people were always the first ones to get online or were the first ones to try out the new ideas. And they, over time, were the ones who benefited most because once it becomes mainstream and everybody's doing it, well, then you don't stand out anymore. However, if you were one of the beginners, you will be at the forefront and continue forging ahead, seen in front of everyone else. And online live events offers us real time engagement. And that is the best way to build trust, a prerequisite to making any sale. We need to be known, liked, and trusted.
Good points. Excellent points.
These are some of the details of some of the features of LinkedIn Live, which is what we favor. This is social media streaming for or to a professional audience, an audience that business people are after. There is good quality control in LinkedIn Live, and it's exclusive to professional people. It's designed to boost engagement because LinkedIn Live is built into LinkedIn and automatically communicates with your followers, with members in LinkedIn. And we can target through filters who can watch or who can become aware, who we can present our live events to.
That really saves a lot of time and money to be able to do that kind of targeting. So that's why it's become such an important tool to be able to use.
Yes, and because it's integrated in LinkedIn, it all works together. We almost don't need to bring in other tools to make this happen, except for one. Well, first of all, LinkedIn Live is free to use. It has a very specific audience. It helps to build brand awareness because LinkedIn Live is designed for professional people, for business people, and it boosts engagement amongst your targeted audience, the audience that you define, that you describe. Now, there are always some cons with everything. And the first one is that to use LinkedIn Live, one needs to apply for access. Not everyone is granted access. One can apply for access on one's page. However, I believe that the requirement there now is that the user needs to have 1,000 followers minimum. One can also apply from one's own account. Not everyone is granted access. I think those people who are most active on LinkedIn, people who post the most, especially videos, will be favored. And LinkedIn Live does require one third-party support, a live streaming application. What I use is StreamYard, and all these live streaming applications are paid for. LinkedIn is highly regulated. It focuses on professional posts, on business or information related to business. A person cannot just post anything which is unprofessional, which we favor, of course.
Definitely.
Now, the best way to get started is to join our webinar, which we have scheduled for Tuesday, the 18th of January at 11 a.m. PST. During the webinar, we will be going into much more detail. It will be much longer. I am now going to post the webinar registration link in the comments section. I suggest viewers click on the link and join us for the webinar, where we will go into more depth. We will explain how to get started, what the steps are to follow, the best practices, the pitfalls to avoid. And being a webinar, it'll be far more interactive. We will be better able to address questions live as well. You have nothing to lose. Come join us on the 18th of January, and we will see you there. Deborah, that brings us to the end of our 30-minute session. We've actually gone over 5 minutes. That has been a very interesting, thought-provoking minutes of online live material information. Thank you so much, Deborah, for sharing your ideas and experience with us. We appreciate your participation.
My
As
pleasure,
always.
Moreno. Always happy to be back here, and it's going to be an awesome webinar.
To our attendees, a big thank you. Remember to register for our webinar about getting you going with online live presentations, Tuesday the 18th January. The link is in the chat. To your continued success and good health. Goodbye until our next LinkedIn Live next Thursday, 9 a.m. Pacific time.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.